Hello everybody, Beth here from Access Paranormal, and this is probably the most trickiest I want to know is because my dearest 18-year-old cat decided that she didn't want to not let her presence be known, so she is sitting on my lap as I go to air. If this wasn't the case, you'd be hearing her. So she was very, very vocal earlier on, so I've sort of had to keep her there, and she's all settled at the moment. Oh goodness, they get so cranky when they get older, it's not funny. So everybody, I'm so glad you could join for this week's I Want to Know, which is about traveling with paranormal equipment. I want to say a big hello to also everybody who is also watching the replay once this video has gone live, and also to anyone who is watching it from the Access Paranormal website, which is accessparanormal.com/learning. Now, there's lots of free stuff on that particular website and that page as well. So if you haven't already and you've missed a Facebook Live session of I Want to Know, that's the place to go and watch the previous ones as well. So this week is all about paranormal equipment and traveling. Now, it's been interesting because I've come across some really cool stories. People have actually said, hello, Paul. Also, hey, Pete. I've come across some really interesting stories that people have had when they've also been traveling and flying, and when they've actually gone through and through security and trying to explain it to security while there's these interesting devices in their bags. We've all at some point will have a story at some point. Security is obviously there to make sure everyone is safe, but it's the interesting looks and conversations one has had with security has been very interesting. So I'll get into it. These are my top 5 tips when you are traveling with paranormal equipment. These are the things that I've kept in mind that's helped me and I have learnt from experience. So first thing is, if you are traveling with equipment, make sure that you actually take the batteries out. And that's for 2 reasons. First one being, in case it does move in your bag, you don't want it to drain your battery in your device. So when you actually do get to a location, most of the time we literally get there, we unpack, we grab our stuff and we head out, and you don't want to have stuff that's actually sort of already drained and dead in your actual device. So make sure you take the batteries out for that reason. The second reason is it doesn't look particularly good if your device has been knocked about in your bag and you suddenly have something that's actually got that's actually on, and if they can detect it, whether it's going in, if you're going into the airport or if you're coming out of the airport, you don't want anything on in your bag in any way, shape or form. So take the batteries out as much as you can. Hi, Karina. Yeah, we've kept all our boxes. That's a good idea as well. Keeping boxes of the original equipment cases is also good. I would recommend that if you are traveling by car or by boat or by coach. If you're traveling by air and your space is restricted, I'll give you a tip on how to deal with that as well. But that's a really good point, Karina, is the fact that making sure you've got the original packaging, because it's all specifically made for that particular equipment. So 2 reasons: you don't want this going off in your bag, it'll drain your battery for when you get out to a location, and also you do not want it on when you are going through airports and airport security. Trust me. I can speak of experience. The second tip is to if you're going to be traveling internationally, you're more than likely going to have your bigger bag, and then you're going to have your smaller bag. So if you have your bigger bag, have your less highly priced items in that, and your highly priced items, or most expensive, in your carry-on bag. For obvious reasons, you want to make sure that, you know, God forbid something happens. I personally have flown a fair bit. It's only ever been twice in that time that I've actually had my bag arrive after I've gotten there, which is usually the next day or day after. But if you do have high-priced items, carry them in the over carry bag with you. And also at the same time, that can also help when you're going through security. So if they do have concerns or they're a bit worried, 90% of the time when I go through security, I'll be swabbed for explosives. And that's because I do carry it in my bag, but I'd rather them find out if they have any doubts then and there than finding out later on, which I will tell you a bit about later. So carry your high-priced stuff with you for obvious reasons, to make sure it's all there and safe, and also if they have any questions, you're right there and there to explain it to them as well, and for that swab to come up negative. Also, Number 3, another cool tip is to also, and this is the space-saving thing that I was talking about with before in your bag. Normally, if you're traveling internationally, you're going to want as much space to be able to buy things as well to come back with. You're a bit restricted as well. Use your clothes. Use your clothes to wrap up your equipment. So that way you've still got your clothes packed, but you've also got your stuff wrapped up as well. And that can be for, I've done that for fragile items like mugs and all sorts of stuff when I've been traveling as well. Yeah, hi Daniel. As a flight attendant for 10 years, my tip is to talk to the cabin crew as you board. Yep, awesome. Tell them that you have fragile equipment in your carry-on. They will assist you in placing it and it doesn't get crushed. Excellent point. Thank you so much for that, Daniel. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Have a chat to the cabin crew as well. If you do have really fragile stuff with you, sometimes we might actually have cameras that have got really decent lenses. If you're using stuff like that as well, that's a really good point to actually have a chat to crew staff on the flight as well. Let them know. Thank you for that, Daniel. Really appreciate it. Hi, Karen. Hope you're well. So yeah, wrapping it up is a great way to be able to save space. Now, of course, you'll think, well, if that's the case and I get to the location, then I have all these bits of equipment wrapped up in clothes. How am I going to carry that to a location? You can't just kind of unravel it and go, no worries, I'll just take it out and carry it in my hand like that. Well, your carry-on bag, use that. So take all the items out of your overnight carry-on bag that you would have had with you, put all your equipment in it, and then you can take that to an investigation. See, it is a bit fiddly, but you do end up having a lot more space in your bag to be able to bring stuff back and for anything else you might want to buy as well. Hello, cool, sweet. So that's another cool tip as well, is make sure it's all wrapped up. Also, tip number 4, if you can, try and use, if you can buy them, the hard shell cases. Now, I've learnt this again from experience. When I first went to the States to a paranormal convention, I had a sports bag and I brought a couple of things back and almost all of it got smashed or damaged in some way. So if you do go overseas, make sure that you do have the hard shell ones. I've bought a Samsonite one, but you don't even have to go for that. It's as long as it's got a hard shell, it'll actually keep the contents in your bag, less chance of it breaking. I know the guys that do baggage claim, they've got a job to do, they're in a rush, they don't care. So make sure that you've got something that's going to protect your insides of your bag as much as you can if you are carrying stuff that's going to be fairly fragile as well. And 5th tip, also be wary of being questioned by security. And this is where all the fun stories come from. So I've had some very interesting looks when I've gone through immigration at the US border in LA. They obviously see Access Paranormal there, and one of them was asking a question, and I had my phone on, and it rang Ghostbusters, and it was just like he's looking at me, looking at my top, looking at whatever it is, like, what are you doing? You get some very interesting situations that can occur. I know. I put my video camera and leads in my... That's a good idea, Vicky, to be able to put your video camera and leads in your main bag and other gear in your carry-on. Yes, exactly. When you get used to traveling, in my carry-on side from paranormal equipment, I'll actually have like a little refresher pack as well. Sometimes when flying to places, often I'll fly into LA and I've got a connecting flight. You'll grab your bag, you'll do a quick change, and then you're sort of on. Sometimes you may not even be able to get access to your bag if you've got a connecting flight. So I tend to have a little travel pack. So I'll have like wipes, deodorant, all this kind of stuff, things that can help you freshen up after a long flight as well. So it must look very strange for security to see all that, as well as things that have circuit boards as well. So always be at least wary at the fact that you will at some point be chatting to security staff at any point if you are a regular traveler. Like I said, I have as well. I've checked my baggage in and at New Orleans airport. Excuse me, it's actually New Orleans, my bad. I've gone in and I think our flight was 45 minutes from takeoff, and they've called me back through security. So I had to go back, all the way back out, chat to them. They had to then get access to my bag. And then I had to wait another 30 minutes to try and get back in through the line. So it depends grossly on the type of airport that you're going through, what country you're in, about how lenient they are with certain things as well. So keep that in mind too. Kind of, not to say that you should always walk around on eggshells, but kind of prepare for the worst case scenario. We do live in a society where things are a little bit unstable, particularly of late. So always make sure that if you are dealing with security personnel in any capacity, being really respectful and friendly with them. Most of the time, as I said, I think it's probably about 90% of the time I fly out domestically, even in Australia, I always get swabbed for explosives, always. And also drugs as well. Must be kind of look that I have. Maybe it's the eyes and the bloodshot from doing overnight investigations. But and I almost kind of sort of volunteer myself when I go through the departure gate too. Hi Daniel, great advice, thank you. So yeah, and as I said, I often have found when I've spoken to security personnel that once they know what it is that you've got, they're actually really curious. There's only been one time where I've had a negative experience, but most of the time they're just really curious about, oh really, that's a thing? Yeah, investigating's a thing, man. So, and they kind of get really curious, and I had this story once when my friend, they went on a tour, and we all know the stories from that as well. Hello Tina, how are you? So yeah, so those are my top 5 tips, guys. Make sure that your equipment is packed properly. If you are flying, make sure that if you can wrap them in clothes. Also have a chat with cabin crew as well. If you do have something that is valuable, make sure that they can also communicate it to their staff members as well on that flight about the fragileness of your devices and things like that too, because we do end up paying for this out of our own pocket, so we want to make sure this kind of stuff is looked after equally as well. And most of the time they're pretty good too. Yeah, so batteries can't go in hand luggage. It depends what batteries. I've actually had batteries. I know that they you normally if you've got a laptop, you take your laptop out. I take my power cord out as well. Just as a thing, but that's an interesting point, Lisa. I've been able to travel with batteries, but yeah, they do actually ask you whether or not you have got batteries or not. Maybe it's probably best to be on the safe side, having a double pack, if at all, or maybe not. Well, actually, you're right. Maybe it's probably better to actually have it in your checked-in luggage. But the thing is, though, for some people, for myself, if I fly domestically, I will actually have a battery pack on me, but I take them out and I show them and I put them out on for them to be x-rayed. And so far that hasn't been an issue. So I'll actually have a look at that, and I'll do a bit of research if you want and find out whether or not that is the case, because you do make a valid point there. Have you run into any security that investigate? No, it's normally people that have been really interested in the paranormal, or they've had a ghost story, or they've wanted to know, so what's this do? It's like, well, this actually is to detect the environment, blah, blah, blah. I mean, obviously you can't speak to them for too long when it's security, because they also have a job as well. But yeah, I love being able to have a bit of a chat, and especially when they're really, really curious about it. It's always kind of cool. It's a good question. I had to put them in checked luggage. Oh, okay, for Tassie. See, again, I don't know what it is. It must be sometimes there are some airports that are slightly different to others. It probably shouldn't be the case at all. But there's been times where I have found that I've had a razor in one of my bags that I completely forgot about, and I've managed to get to and from domestically from an airport, flying in and out of Sydney. And then there's been times where, I've had a corkscrew in there from something that I picked up years ago, and someone said, no, well, you're going to have to confiscate this. So, yeah, that's really interesting, Lisa, the fact that you've had that issue. But as I said, I'll have a look and see whether or not that's actually a battery issue. And like you said, I do remember distinctly the poster signs that they have there saying, oh, look, be careful, if you've got batteries, you need to declare it. Also, when you're checking in online, they'll also mention those kinds of questions as well. So you may definitely have a point there. But that's really interesting, really interesting. Cool. Also, Mick, hello, Mick, hello, Mason. How are you guys? So yeah, so some really cool tips there. Like I said, I did make my flight in New Orleans eventually, but that was I was a little bit grumpy, and I'm being very G-rated there. I almost didn't think I was going to make it, and the suitcase that I've got has TSA locks, which means that anyone in the airport have a special key that can actually get into your bag if they need to. But sometimes what I've also been told is that sometimes airport staff one person may have the key, and they're right at the other end of the airport, and some airports can be quite big, and it saves more time to drag the person out from where they are at the gate through security to get the details than it is to find that person and then have them come to the desk and actually open your bag. So that was some inside information that I also found out that I was not happy about. So there you go. Cool, awesome. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. So anyway, if you did miss the first parts and any of it at all, by all means, you can actually watch back on the replay while I sit here with my 18-year-old bossy ass cat that's decided to want to come and sit and make her presence known in a livable sense. So thanks very much, guys, for watching. By any means, if you've got any questions, if you've got any ideas or thoughts or things that are really perplexing you, by all means email them at accessparanormal@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching.